Alpacas get a lot of love-hate attention, and there are countless amounts of polarized opinions on alpacas and the role they serve. Now, alpacas do serve a role on our farm, but let's cover the truths and misconceptions of what alpacas have to offer. But first, let's talk about some of the benefits of having alpacas, both for dual purpose and for livestock guardianship. Now, one of the best things about alpacas, and compared to some other animals like a dog, is the fact that they are low-maintenance grazers and they thrive off grass. Not only does this help for feed bills, also in time management, because it doesn't take much to take care of an alpaca. You don't have to feed them every day. They will take care of themselves on the field like they will with other animals that are out there grazing with them. These alpacas really are some of the cheapest animals to have on my farm. My goats and my cow are way more expensive and have way more of an upkeep. Alpacas are not known for destroying trees, and they have a very low footprint when it comes to your soil and your land, and their poop is incredible. It will revitalize anything that it touches. They poop into a pile, you can collect it, and it can go straight into your garden. So forget being dual purpose, maybe you could call them tri-purpose. Alpacas could be a great animal to add to your farm without increasing any labor significantly. And alpacas are incredible for fiber production. They offer some of the best fiber in the world. It's not only hypoallergenic, it's also praised for the quality in textiles, in clothing, in crafts, and in processing their fiber. You don't need to remove lanolin like you do in sheep. Lanolin is a waxy substance that covers most sheep's fibers, which gives them water protection, and it does a lot of other things, but it coats the fiber on a sheep. But alpacas don't have that, and the fiber doesn't need to be stripped. It's just shear and go. We actually have a down blanket that doesn't have any feathers inside anymore. So what we're going to be doing is taking some of their fiber that we've collected from this year, and then taking their fiber and filling in those little quilt patches, providing potentially the most warm blanket we've ever owned. Alpacas are generally gentle and calm and are super easy to manage. Now, as it comes to a natural predatory deterrent, alpacas do have some benefits. When it comes to birds of prey flying overhead, chickens love to run after the alpacas, hide underneath them, or even around them. This one thing is enough to deter a lot of birds of prey from flying over, snatching up your birds, and taking them off. And that's because the alpacas almost work like walking scarecrows. In fact, some of the only times I've ever lost my chickens is when my alpacas were either locked up or in a different pasture away from my birds. When this has happened, those sky dwellers come through, snatch up my birds, and off they go, and I lose a decent amount. But if these alpacas are in the field with my chickens, literally they have not been attacked at all from any bird of prey. And I hear in many different forms, whether it be from comments or just people on the internet, that alpacas do serve a great role as livestock guardian on your farm, not just for your birds, but for your sheep, your goats, or any other animal that needs protection. But that's what leads us to the downsides of alpacas. Now, here's why I believe that alpacas do not serve the role of livestock guardian on your farm. Now, while alpacas are big in size, they do not have the necessary driven, protective behavior that something like a dog has. They can be aggressive and they can be protective, but this is not the norm, and it's far from what you should really expect to see out of your alpaca. Alpacas can almost be described as having cat-like behavior. They're more docile and curious from afar. They don't really let people get as close as I am to it. In fact, I'm the only person in my entire family who can be this close to an alpaca without having food on them. Our own alpacas that we've had for 3 years, my family or any other guest must have food in their hand for an alpaca to get this close, and even then, they're still very skittish. This, in fact, does have a large deterrent when it comes to livestock protection, because livestock protection isn't just about predators. It's also about keeping people from stealing your animals, because although this is something that we don't always expect to see, it does happen. And alpacas also don't have the drive or the wherewithal to see intruders from afar or hear them and go investigate. Alpacas either won't notice at all or remove themselves from potential danger. Now again, like I said before, alpacas can be aggressive, kind of. I had brought a new cow onto my farm. For some reason, this black alpaca did not like that cow, and it did get aggressive and try to fight the cow. This cow was much larger than the alpaca, and yet it still stood its ground, pushed it around. I was able to intervene, and they became friends over time. But even then, alpacas, the male alpacas, have fighting teeth. Something I saw was that the alpaca would whip its head and try to hit the cow with its fighting teeth. But still, even then, Not a single bit of damage was done to the cow or anything. If that cow really wanted to do anything to this alpaca, it could have. It wouldn't have stood a chance. My alpaca would have been taken down. But it's not even just large animals that could take the beating from an alpaca, because one of the largest killers of alpacas is neighborhood dogs. So let's be frank, if an alpaca can't protect itself against a neighborhood dog, how could you ever expect that an alpaca is going to protect your animals from said neighborhood dog? In fact, an alpaca is more likely to protect itself and remove itself from the situation than stay and fight and to protect those animals. It is going to be more self-serving than protective. Honestly, a dog is way more suited to be able to do that task than I would ever trust one of these things. Just the other day, one of my neighbors came onto my property. Normally her dog walks with her. For some reason, she walked onto my property with her dog. This did not go well. But for example, these alpacas didn't even notice not only that the person was there, but the dog was there. Anything could have happened. However, my dogs knew exactly what was happening and were aware of everything at every stage. They saw my neighbor coming up to my fence, they heard the fence, they investigated the fence, and when my neighbor brought that dog in, they did not let that dog go anywhere past that gate. Now, that could have gone way worse with a dog. Luckily it didn't. But would these alpacas ever do anything like that? Absolutely not. Now, alpacas may be a slight deterrent to something like foxes, mainly just because of their sheer size. And like I said before, their behavior leads them to be somewhat curious, but more so like a cat at a distance. So if there was an intruder or a stranger, there's no way that this alpaca will go anywhere near it. It will observe from afar while your animals are being stolen. So no matter how much I hear that alpacas are dual purpose and are good for livestock guardianship, I will emphatically disagree as much as I possibly can and help save you from thinking that an alpaca is going to save one of your animals. It just won't. It will not be the best deterrent for your animals. Don't go for an alpaca. Despite what you hear, go for a dog. But I can hear you in the comments. What do you say about llamas? Now, llamas do have a little bit higher of a drive for protection than something like an alpaca, but they still don't have that aggressive behavior to run into danger in order to save their flock. They will save themselves over the animal that they're supposed to be protecting. But this isn't true for a dog or even a donkey. Both of those animals will head into danger and fight for your animals. So, should you get an alpaca? They're amazing to look at. They bring a lot of life into the farm, but they are not dual purpose. And some may even say that they're actually kind of pointless to have around, period. So to sum this up, do alpacas have purpose on your farm? Well, they can when it comes to fiber and manure production, but if it has anything to do with livestock protection other than protecting your birds from birds of prey, then absolutely not. They will not protect your animals like you would want them to. I think one of the main reasons people want alpacas when it comes to their livestock guardian is because they don't want to deal with training a dog or feeding a dog or any of those kinds of things. Now, I want to cover this in the next video, and you can probably find that right here. And here we will discuss what it means to have a livestock guardian, the type of livestock guardian, trainability, and so much more. Come on over and we'll see you over there.